media consultant, and I'm delighted to introduce to the stage today. We have David from Hemp Heroes, and we have Catherine from the Skin Clinic, where we're going to start to discuss everything to do with your dog's skin and the varied health benefits that hemp and CBD can bring to our dogs. And we're going to open this up as an opportunity for you guys to ask some of Ireland's greatest experts in this field some questions that might be specific to your own dog, your own concerns. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to these guys. Maybe if we're going to begin, David, if I could ask you to talk a little bit more about your business and what you do and introduce yourself, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, brilliant. Will you hear it? No? Yeah. Hey guys, so my name is David Hartkin. I'm the founder of Hemp Heroes. So essentially we're a seed shelf hemp company. So we manufacture over 25 different hemp-based products here in Ireland. And so we actually make our products in Wicklow. And we've kind of 4 key main segments. And we do human food supplements, we do cosmetics, we do food, and then also we have a full pets range. So on the pet side of things, it's actually developed over the last couple of years. And when we originally started, we had 1 product, now we have 10. So I just want to show you how much really interest people have in it for their pets. So hemp, just as kind of a food source, is super nutritious. It's probably one of the best superfoods you could buy. Free to vitamin E, vitamin A, D, zinc, magnesium, everything that humans and pets essentially need. So that's why I suppose it works quite well on the skin side of things, and it's very good as an anti-inflammatory. So we'll probably talk about that a little bit more later.
Super. Fantastic stuff. And Catherine, you're here from the Skin Clinic. It's very exciting. And we hear great things about you guys as well. So do you want to introduce Skin Clinic, your role at the Skin Clinic as well? And then we're going to get into conversations about combining both of your fields of expertise to benefit our dogs after.
So my name is Catherine and I'm a vet and I specialise in dermatology, and we have Ireland's only dedicated dermatology clinic, and we're based not too far away. We're in Middleton here in County Cork, and dermatology in pets covers both skin and hair disease, and that is the most common reason that you are likely to have to bring your pet to the vet if they have a problem with their skin or their ears. So that is all that we do, and we know what we do, and we know being able to help pets with skin hair diseases.
Super stuff. Can I ask you a little bit? We're talking about our pets in our home. So when we're looking at our pet dogs, what are the things that people should be looking out for to identify that there may be a skin issue, and what their first port of call should be in those instances?
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose thankfully most pets don't have skin or ear disease, right? But unfortunately some of the lucky ones do. And I would probably say firstly, know your breed. So some breeds we never see. I think we see like 1 gram in 5 years or something like that. So some we never see, and some we see day in, day out. And so for example, if you have a blue Doberman, you're going to see your vet for skin problems, right? So you're really, really lucky if you don't, okay? Or if you have, 40 or French bulldogs, but the still fluid ones are really, really common, they will have problems. So I firstly say know your breed, because there's some really, really complete specific conditions that maybe if you're thinking about getting a certain breed, to just do your research first, and then to consider if they're going to have that problem, and how that's going to have an impact on you when you're there. And then you said to me, after all the questions, I was saying, know your breed plus, which is 18.
Just with those common things that might identify to a breed,
Yes.
they could easily pick up on
Yeah.
that. Well, I think it might be a skin problem here, but what should people be looking at?
Look, often it's obvious, and we're seeing that your pet has skin disease or redness or spots or kind of scratching or whatever else. But the one that we see that people misinterpret all the time is itch that isn't scratching, right? So what I mean is licking, and we're nibbling, and we're chewing and biting, right? Particularly with itch. So almost everyone comes into me and goes, my pet licks their feet and it's a habit. And I go, no, it's never a habit, right? It's exceptionally rare to have a behavioural condition that would cause, actually, to be honest, I'd say they just don't, right? If your pet, particularly their feet, if they're licking their feet, it's because their feet are itchy and because they can't physically scratch their own feet. That's the one that we would see that would just be often misinterpreted.
Okay.
Reply to your ads. Sorry guys.
Technology. So it's fascinating because we see behaviour a lot of the time as well, as there's issues with dogs presenting with itching and biting and things that we think are just normal behaviours that the dog's presenting with. and we're like, there's something underlying going on. If it's not pain, it's dermatology essentially. And David, can we talk about the benefits of hemp to maybe look at if we do get breeds who are particularly prone to skin inflammation conditions, and can we use hemp as a preventative and as a supplement, or is it something that we turn to once the problem already exists, or is it something we can use to prevent those problems occurring as well?
Yeah, so to be honest, it's kind of, I suppose you can look at it from both sides. Some people will use it as preventative, and like hemp is super nutritious, so you can give it to your pets all year round. And the great thing about hemp and even CBD products is they're very safe in that they're non-toxic, they're non-addictive, they're non-intoxicating. So like to have any sort of adverse reaction, you need to be taking like extremely high doses. So like in humans, and to have a toxic effect on CBD, you need to take 20,000 milligrams. And like most alcohols are 1,000 milligram in a 30-minute bottle. So unless you want to try drink basically half a liter of oil, like best of luck to you. So similar in pets, and it's very safe, and that's why I think a lot of customers are starting to look towards the kind of natural route, because like it's next to impossible to overdose on it. There's like the only kind of side effect you'd have if you took extremely high dose would be probably a runny poo or a slightly lethargic dog. And even at that, that's extremely rare cases. And hemp and CBD are very good as natural anti-inflammatories. So even if you look on the human side, you'd see all the big brands now like Nivea, P&G, all the skincare brands are starting to incorporate hemp seed oil into their products. So now if you go to test with Dunn's, chances are you'll see a product with hemp seed oil in like a conditioner, soaps, because hemp seed oil is really high in omegas, omega 3 and 6, which are great for the skin. And then on the CBD side, it's really good as an anti-inflammatory. So if you do have skin conditions, they do work quite well. So like we have a new nose and paw band now which has CBD in there and vitamin E and Roman chamomile and beeswax, so it's all natural, and it basically helps with kind of nourishing the skin if you do have allergies.
But wait, Zipa, and how can we put fashion maybe still up dogs on these scenes supplements?
There's a nutshell like on when I need to be off and I'm off when I need to be on. I'll get it right. Thank you. So thinking about using hemp as a supplement from a nutritional perspective, how early can we start our dogs on these things as a preventative? Can a puppy, for example, use these types of supplements in their food straight through to adulthood?
Yeah, so essentially all mammals have a thing called an endocannabinoid system, and that's what CBD kind of interacts with. So that's why CBD works for humans, it works for dogs, cats, horses. And funny enough, there's actually a zoo in Poland given it to elephants, and it was part of their breeding program to actually calm them down. So it works right across the board, and because we're kind of naturally really hardwired for cannabinoids, and it is safe, we generally would recommend it to puppies because most times they don't have these issues, but if they did, we'd probably recommend speak to your vet first. It could be dietary based in terms of it might be the food that they might be have an allergy to, which is causing it.
Yeah.
So we kind of wouldn't jump to it straight away, and I always check a couple of avenues first before putting them on it, but it is safe for the likes of puppies because we do have some very rare cases where we'd have puppies who are born with certain maybe hip dysplasia or elbow dysplasia, and they'd actually use our CBD as more of like an anti-inflammatory kind of for I suppose pain management, and it is completely safe for them. It's just probably my first port of call is bed.
Okay, super. And when we're talking, going back to the benefits for things like this for skin as well. So many of our pet dogs struggle with skin complaints and skin conditions. My own boy at home struggles hugely with his skin, and we've always previously treated it in a pharmaceutical approach. But obviously with these new advances that we're hearing about, it's becoming every little bit easier to treat these conditions. But when we're looking at some of the other more ingrained problems that our dogs might have with their skin, and obviously being the leading expert in Ireland in this particular avenue, can you talk us through what some of the most common conditions are that you would work with, that you'd be presented with, and perhaps we can also talk a little bit about what we can do to best ensure the health of our dogs' skin.
Yeah, absolutely. So the most common one, I suppose, by a country mile, probably 60 to 70% of what we see is allergies. So either atopic dermatitis, which is eczema in people, which is a condition where your pet has environmental allergies, or adverse food reaction, which is where your pet has food allergies, or you have some unfortunate nuclear combination that too. So that's probably 2/3 of what we see. The other third then is everything else, and there is a huge number of other skin conditions that can happen, right? There's lots of them, and I think what's really important before you start talking about, what treatment are we going to use, do you have the right diagnosis? Because just because your pet is itchy, yes, itch is the main symptom of allergy, but it's a symptom of lots of other skin diseases too. And the temptation is to jump to, well, my pet is itchy, they must be allergic. And then suddenly I start down this journey of allergy medication and nothing seems to be working. And then you come to me and I'll be like, well, maybe we actually didn't have the right diagnosis to begin with, and that's why your pet doesn't respond to allergy medicine because they didn't have an allergen in the first place. So it's so important before you start talking about therapeutics that we actually have a diagnosis. Oh, yeah, actually moved that stuff well with him.
Super. And where did that diagnosis come from originally? So if a client presents to you or somebody presents as fluid, somebody here today presented a case to you, is that something that you deal with directly in your clinic, or do you refer these cases elsewhere?
Yeah, so in terms of the allergy diagnosis is actually a tricky one, right? Because there is no test, and that's really, really important. We've had people come to us who have spent so much money on lots and lots of different versions of tests that they've had, that there is no test that can tell us, is your pet allergic or are they not allergic, right? It's a diagnosis based on what their history, so everything that's kind of gone on before. Something called their signals, which is their age and their breed and kind of the clinical signs that they have, and then the exam that we make. So, for example, a pet with allergies, they don't tend to have problems on the top of their bodies or the sides of their bodies. It's an underneath disease, or it's a disease that's in their ears. So it's all it's sometimes quite a tricky diagnosis to make, and it also varies breed by breed. So we'll see certain breeds doing things that other breeds don't do. We'll see German Shepherds and Labradors and Retrievers biting at their thighs. Frenchies don't do that. Jack Russells eat their legs. So it's all kind of a different presentation with different breeds. Some skin conditions we have to biopsy to get an answer, or maybe to rule out other skin diseases. And always as well, like as a routine part in our exam, we're always sampling the surface of your pet's skin. It's right there in front of us. The example is we look under the microscope and we see what we have, because many pets with any skin condition, they're very, very vulnerable to getting infections in their skin. And if they get an infection, the itch shoots up and they become far more itchy than they were in the first place. And if that infection isn't identified and treated, they won't respond to any sort of product unless that infection is identified.
That's so interesting. And are there aspects in our own homes and in our own environment, things that we might be using in the environment that can trigger reactions, or whether it be from an allergic perspective, whether it's stuff we use to clean our homes, or whether that can exacerbate existing skin conditions?
And do you know, actually, it's a really good question, because we get so many people into us who are driven absolutely demented by changing the cleaning products and changing your beds. We've had people who have ripped up their carpets, they've ripped up their lawns, they've thrown out their furniture. I would say, stop. Don't do any of that, right? Particularly for allergies, it's a condition that's influenced by genetics plus the environment that your pet lives in. Okay, so half of it is genetics. That is the hands that they are dealt, that they are going to be prone to getting that condition. Now, sure, if you move to Australia or you move to the North Pole, that might be enough of an environmental shift to affect how the disease is progressing. But unfortunately, there is no point trying to change the environment in your house. We've never seen that it's made a meaningful difference to the pet, and you'll just drive yourself absolutely crackers. Like, we get contact allergies, so we're in Ireland. The reality is that most of our bodies are covered in clothes most of the time. And so what we wash our clothes in has a significant effect on our skin, because it's touching our skin all the time. Your dogs have hair, okay, so that is not going to happen to them. We get the odd hairless breed, and they present more like people with skin conditions, but I see like 2 a year or something like that. So your dog has hair, so don't worry about that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And
I think for clients, whether it's clients you guys are working with or clients that I might be working with, or clients from a veterinary perspective, we always try and seek the simple solution, the thing that makes sense, because that's how it would occur if that was us in that situation. As you said, we have contact allergies, we have these conditions, but the dog is obviously going to respond completely differently, and we know things that affect us internally and externally are very different for our dogs. So we often hear, I've changed everything in my house to try and resolve these issues, as you're saying, but ultimately the best thing to do is get that proper diagnosis and that proper skin analysis. And something I'm using this as a great opportunity to ask questions I want. But obviously, when we're talking about skin health, we know so much more now about the gut-brain axis and the gut-brain-skin axis, and that it is its own essentially its own microbiome. So thinking about how we can nourish and protect this both internally and externally. So using your products, they're products that are ingested, obviously. But then can you talk through how they actually work, how we would feed those into others?
Yeah, exactly. So when it comes to, I suppose, CBD and hemp-based products, there's kind of a couple of ways you can use them. So we have drops. That's probably the easiest. And essentially, CBD needs to be mixed with a fat soluble to be absorbed. So what we use is we actually use salmon oil in our pet range, and in the human side we use MCT oil. Now we do have a vegan version for dogs, obviously who have allergies, say like salmon or fish. But the easy way to do it is essentially just put it in their food, and because there's that little bit of salmon oil in there, it helps with the absorption. And 9 times out of 10, the dogs like taste because in salmon, so it works very well. Drops is probably the best and the easiest way to use CBD because you can use it so many different ways, whether it be on a treat, in their food. If they're really picky, you can even put it on their paw, and chances are they'll just lick it straight off, or on their nose. Kind of a little trick that we came across that works very well. Other than that, we do have capsules. So again, most dogs are quite finicky. Like my dog is like a magician. We try to give him a capsule, he somehow still manage to spit it out. And we developed the capsules just for people who prefer them, and we also work with the guide dogs for the blind. So obviously people with side issues can't count drops. So capsules make a lot more sense. And we have a new powder product again that works really well with the likes of wet food and yogurt, peanut butter. And then we have topicals now, so you can put them actually directly on the affected area. But the way CBD works is it will get through their whole system, so it will help with kind of any inflammation both inside and outside essentially. So like we actually have a couple of dogs on it for the likes of stomach issues, and we have one customer down in Cork who she tried absolutely everything. And I think she was at the point of she was going to actually drive up to the UCD veterinary hospital to get medication. She tried our CBD and it actually worked, and the dog has had no issues since. So it really does help.
Super. And what would be the average turnaround that you'd see from when you start trying a dog in this particular product, when you start seeing results?
Yeah.
And how do we measure that in our dogs before?
Yeah, so in terms of kind of the results, it usually gets into their system within about 30 minutes. But it's kind of like anything, like you can't go to the gym once and expect to be fit and healthy. It's a long-term thing. So the more you do it, the more effective it gets. So generally about 5 to 7 days, it actually starts to build up in their system. So kind of actually seeing the results, depending on what condition you're using it for, can be a little bit easier to quantify. So for example, like we have dogs on our CBD for arthritis. If your dog can't jump on the couch and every jumps up there, you can obviously see a noticeable difference. Same with say epilepsy cases. If your dog is having multiple epileptic fits a week, and then they're going to reduce significantly or stop, but then you can obviously quantify it a lot easier. And with the likes of skin, usually you should see they're, I suppose, a little less agitated, not scratching as much. That would be generally what you're coming up for.
Super. And are we seeing more of these products going their way into for pharma-based industries and then veterinary as well? Are we seeing more CBD and hemp being used in that capacity as well as from the approach to selling it as a singular supplement?
I'd say definitely. So like in the last probably year, we've had so many vets reaching out to us because, to be perfectly honest, CBD and kind of on the veterinary side, there isn't that much knowledge that vets have on it. So if you chances are you went to your vet and asked about CBD, they probably know as much about it as you do. So it's probably a lack of kind of education, because the concept really that's all in veterinary schools, it's quite a new, it's a new area. And we do actually have a handful of vets who stock our products now, because what's happened is they've either used them themselves or they've had customers recommend it to them and then try it and then see how effective it is and will stock it. And again, that's why UCD are so interested in working with us. So we've one clinical study on arthritis, we've started with them, and then the plan is to do one on epilepsy and then also anxiety next. And like, I suppose you can kind of see the way the industry is moving when a lot of the bigger, I suppose, pet chains and conglomerates are starting to either get involved or invested in the industry. So like Mars Pet Care, so they're actually on Pedigree. So same as Mars Chocolate Bars, it's all the one big group. And they've only recently done a study on anxiety in pets using CBD, and they actually measured the cortisol levels with saliva and blood, and they actually shown a noticeable difference in the reduction in stress for car journeys and vet trips.
Super.
So if you have Mars, which are $1 billion industry, and on Pedigree, which is obviously an international brand, looking at this and doing clinical studies, well then they can obviously see which way the diet is going to go.
Super, that's fascinating. Actually, my next question for both of you would start with yourself. Just given the variety of cases that you deal with in the HCs, do you ever see these cases where skin conditions are a result of combined stress and that it's going to be more of a behavior based? Does this happen very often, or do you get referrals for that?
I get lots of referrals for it, but does it happen very often? No, right? Cats are actually the biggest victim of this. So cats can overgroom or can get very, very itchy. And or they can cats have weapons everywhere. They have their claws and their tongue. They have everything, and they can really just do horrible damage to themselves. And there's this condition described called psychogenic alopecia. Psychogenic means in your head, and alopecia is hair loss. So a lot of these cats are thought to have mental health issues that cause them to do this, and they don't. They overwhelmingly do it. They are itchy cats. And same with dogs. So we know with people, I'm sure with people in this room who have skin conditions, and I'm sure you have a skin condition. If you get stressed, your skin condition gets worse. So we know with 2/3 of skin diseases in people, if you get stressed, that stress process of happening in your body will make your skin condition worse. And we think that happens in dogs, and we see it all the time. To be honest, that say go to kennels or some sort of stressful event that can cause of their skin. But stress as a primary only cause of your pet's skin disease, I'm going to say no. That I would consider that to be exceptionally rare. So it's other things, and it's a convenient one to try and kind of say, oh, it must be this. Like I know, and unfortunately, it probably isn't.
Yeah, and I think again that's all bringing it back to we try to find the easy answers for all these things, whereas actually it is so much more complex and convoluted than that. And very often in our industries, we all work together because there is no such thing as one expert who looks after every aspect of your dog's need and health. It comes from such a wide range. Like an example with us guys sat here, obviously having our veterinary professionals in other areas as well, but focus specifically on certain targeted areas of their profession. Like Claire from the hydrotherapy earlier was actually talking very much about joint inflammation and very much talking about pain as well and arthritis and things like this, which all tie in so brilliantly with conversation. So a common one that I would get asked a lot of the time in my work is people who are hell-bent on protein and the effect that this has on our animal's skin. And I know that a lot of the food marketing industries as well are looking at advertising grain-free foods, hydrolyzed chicken, and that some proteins are more digestible than others, and how this affects the skin. And I know there's tests for skin allergies in terms of nutrition are very expensive, but as you were saying earlier, they're not actually that conclusive. Am I right in saying that?
I would say I would go further, and I would say they're a complete waste of your time and your money.
I just want to say
that's what I would say. I'm known for having an opinion, and I'm not afraid to voice it, right? So firstly, please don't have a test for food allergies done in your pet. You're going to spend 500 euro for a piece of paper, and I'm going to throw in the bin when you come in to me, and then you're going to be upset. It's unfortunately it's worthless, and we get no, let me go back to what I said actually. You said about food. So my role with the food, right? There's an amazing group of pet owners here, and everybody is able to go off and do your own research and my job as a dermatologist is to tell you, try to determine, does your pet have a food allergy causing their skin disease? Okay, that is it. And it is a yes or no question, and it is a yes or no question we can answer kind of in a period of 4 to 8 weeks. There's been some really good research done in this, and the most common allergens are chicken, beef, wheat, and dairy. Okay, so that's so how we have to do this, and we have to feed your pet a special food, and again, that's another minefield stuff I won't get into. Between 4 and 8 weeks, we want to feed them something they're extremely unlikely to be allergic to. Now we're doing lots of other things at the same time, so we have to figure it all out. I have never met a dog with a grain allergy. The protein thing, I often get dogs on a high protein diet, and all they do is sit on the couch all day, and I'm like, they don't need a high protein diet. That's the last thing that they need. That's for like elite athletes. So there's a lot of marketing going on in that particular area, and look, and come into me, I just try and cut through, I try and explain as best I can, put through all that nonsense, and just try and answer that question, yes or no, because unfortunately lots of people come into us in what I call food limbo, where their pet is on a special diet, and when we talk about it, nobody this way. We're going to try and figure it out.
Yeah, and it is such a common one, and I think like that food marketing industries are full of as much woo and witchcraft as the human food industries are as well. And what's important is that to bear in mind that every dog is a unique individual that has a different set of needs, has a completely entirely different biochemistry to another dog as well. So having that individual assessment and diagnosis is going to be key. And then that's what works so wonderfully with products like yours as well, is that we might not necessarily require a diagnosis to set our dogs up for ultimate success for their skin health by supplementary feeds such as your products that are going to help support that throughout their whole life cycle, from probably what is added to that as well.
Definitely, exactly, because especially like in the fast food space, if we're kind of on the topic, like I was only over at Pat's now, the big dog show in the UK, and I spoke to about, I suppose, a couple of different kind of food producers. I think the general rule that I got told is if your dog food has more than kind of 10 ingredients and the list is this long, chances are it's basically full of crap. So you want to try to avoid long list ingredients, especially ones that we don't know. And I suppose it should be as simple and straightforward as possible. So
super, thanks, guys. So I suppose at this point as well, we want to turn this around to you guys. I know not everybody wants to ask questions publicly, but these guys will be sticking around for a little bit longer if anybody wanted to ask them something specific to their phone dog needs. It's freezing in here all of a sudden. It's cold. There's a freezing killer. Anyway, by the by, does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask specifically to their own dog's skin health? Any concerns that they have, or any questions about what they can be doing better to ensure that their dogs, as they're going through their life stages, are going to be kept more comfortable? Yes.
So I had to like send to people questions. I like a lot of the birds that they can. I got freckles on the road and I have never seen correctly to find. As you can see, certain times of the year since our if we're well the job, if I will public, I just started to then appreciate sports opinion. And sometimes, certain times to hear this, you can know she can have this shiver. And I just being knowing feeding work a few times with the is to bind her fast as supposed to. And if I didn't wash the shows, the book that's I would see. I just got into the shifting. So that's on. Okay. Wait till my brief on. That's helpful. First week, then
So the question was basically to do with kind of having the food side of things very well controlled. This is one here, is it? Yes. What's this? What's current? Who's Freckles? Go over, girl. Okay, Freckles is on a raw diet and you're avoiding certain foods. Do you know for sure that she has a problem with those foods, or is it
but I know that you're going to think every day. Okay. Is she happy? I try to keep her on short.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is the Bible calm?
Yeah.
I told Tama she for and you cheat.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
And for what I'm doing, is we that I have like any treats to and ready she was
Yeah. Yeah.
going to political pass. The altitude she gets to provide in trying to keep everything.
And do you feel that any food has made her better or worse? From purely from your observations.
I have to say, she ever really gets sunshine in her bit or kindness.
Yeah.
It would exist.
Okay, yeah, and that's really interesting because often people will come into me with a big long list of, recommendations from lots of different sources, and that's always the question I ask. From your observations, has any food made them better or worse? Usually the answer is no, or sometimes people will go, actually, yeah, I have seen that. And then I'll go, okay, that's something we need to kind of get way to into then as well. And then you've mentioned that, okay, despite having the food controlled as best we can, we still seem to have problems a certain time of year. And they're just like us. Lots of dogs will have issues with, environmental allergies, whether it's pollens or whether it's, your indoor dust mite allergies, mold allergies. Ireland is the perfect climate for something like that. And the trouble is, pollen is the month really where you don't have pollen is December. The tree pollens, they start from January time, and then you'll get those for a couple of months, and then you start getting all the grasses and all weeds and everything else kind of joining the party. So it's really common that you find that they have more of an issue at certain times of year than others, just like ourselves. And true, as people here who take antihistamines at certain times of year, that you have to do that. And you can then, generally the question that I will ask people is, are they uncomfortable? Because look, you could argue that maybe just a small little bit of itch, we may be able to manage that with, doing a regular wash, having some supplements and things like that on board. But if your pet is at the stage where they are uncomfortable, we may have to intervene with medication during those times. And sadly, antihistamines don't work for dogs. It would be really, really useful if they did. Histamine is just not an important player in a dog's urge of reaction. So sadly, they just don't work, and we tend to kind of be reaching for different types of allergy medicines. But for me, always, if they come in and they're itchy, I'm always checking for infection first. It's really common that they can have yeast overgrowth or bacteria overgrowth for larger skin, and that can all be kind of contributing too. So it's kind of it's a deceptively complicated kind of question. You mentioned about the raw. I'm not pro-raw or I'm not anti-raw, right? I respect your decision as a pet owner to do your research and feed whatever you feel is right for your pet and is right for your home as well. Again, my function is to determine, is your pet allergic to something that they're eating or are they not? So I kind of find it doesn't really matter, to be honest, actually. Whether this food is cooked or whether the food is raw, if you're allergic, if you're not. It's no big deal. No. Did I answer that question?
Yeah, like a deep fine cows well the foundations journey about the scene, like a Chicago trips is I just found that so I went to a plant honoring in the end so the town that was called the Factory Plot. If you checked over it, you going taste the food and supply. The found she had to bed going during what he's out in good news and the company. The found can see now started to report then I can see that she's shooting breaks then. She's starting to get rest so sufficiently waste the best it's a lot going into the summer this sort of what you recommend is like environment which is key that her bed is active. She's not in a very dirty but she can read all those into loss of so I suppose it's just another point forward. If I deeply with that into shape they could it's crap that John that's to their
Cycle.
not sure as what was, but it worked and I think what she do that felt the difference. Mistake it, I it. And just don't want to have to constantly put that wave she and Dora but just needs and start this.
Yeah.
For she to reach the top and
Yeah. And you may find, of course, we would rather not have to give our pets medication. You may find you have no choice. Because for a lot of the ones that I see, their lives would be desperately at home to be without medication. Now, if the medication isn't working, that's another story, right? But if you said, and I gave this treatment, particularly for wool cycles, that can very safe types of allergy medicine, if that's something you say, oh, she was fine, it usually lasts a month, some of them get a little bit longer out of it. Particularly if it's just a kind of summer thing, you may find they go back to do that. Even something simple, if it tends to be their eyes, using something simple like a saline eye drop, just to push the eyes, using that, or you can use like a human antihistamine, those over the counter eye drops, things like that. That can help if it's particularly the kind of red eye version that they're getting, rather to use steroids into the eyes, something like that. Often simple saline will do the trick, and you may find you have no choice but to give the medicine. You could go down the other route, which is doing your allergy testing, desensitization treatments. If you've dealt with clinical symptoms during the summer, realistically, probably the easiest way is to just give them the Evergreen and
Super, thank you. That was a super insightful question as well, with a lot of information. I know Cytopoint is something I'm a fan of as well. It's a fantastic option. It works in an antibody way, so it doesn't affect all these little organs and bits and bobs the previous drugs would have affected. Am I right in saying that? Super. So in terms of skin health and also talking about CBD and hemp and the benefits that can have for a dog, does anybody have any further questions they would like to ask our expert? I can see a load of people going, yeah, pick him. So basically, I suppose one of the kind of closing notes to consider is we do have a question? Oh, sorry. You're right in front of me. It's the trees.
very close and played Bitfair Force is that in Kronos. Like first playing know that. Why here I would put that in with great grief, the whole spell that pass. But at the restate.
Yeah, what age should
Here's for a year.
he nearly year. And it's often facilitates. If you're seeing licking and biting, and that is a leash, basically. So she's telling us that she has itchy feet and itchy legs. And then the next step then for us to try and determine is why does she have wet, right? And this is where often we jump to, oh, that's a symptom of allergies. So she must have allergies. So she may have allergies, but we need to kind of have a look at everything first. Like, should we do?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my mind.
Then, crap weight I was born. Nothing until hate weight come to this. Like, congratulations, like,
There may be some feedback. No feedback.
You're all good. If only we knew at the beginning of the day.
Hi. So straight away I can see with this little one, right, something we call hypotrichosis, which is where I can see that there's hair loss from her, particularly on the kind of fronts of her feet and down her legs. And if you show me her tummy and things like that as well, perfect. I can see she has a nice pale tummy, nice pale skin. I can see maybe a hint of it on the back feet as well, particularly kind of over her nipple area. So she's licking and she's pulling those hairs out and she's getting those hairs out. And she let me touch her little foot. Me.
yeah.
Oh,
There you go. There. Don't worry about it. Keep your hands where it is. It's touch really. We just can see if I can touch your foot.
try not to give you a hand. Good girl. So from my point of view, I'm interested in the bottom of the foot. So I can see the bottom of her little foot here. Such a eight there. There's such a corner. I know. Sometimes what I do is I do an out of sight approach. Continued. See if he's in and turn the car. Okay, right. I think he's the top. Gently reach and help him. So I can see a small bit of kind of thickening of the skin and kind of redness and things there, right? So basically what I would be doing in the clinic, the first thing I want to do is sample the surface of that skin and see what's there, right? She may well have kind of the bacterial overgrowth that is causing her skin to be itchy in those areas. Then the heads up is that it is a quite which is maybe not symptom. She's some sort of tactical I don't. We do see a lot of her kind of type of dog with itching skin conditions or eczema or things like that. So that may center on what it's kind of pointing to, but certainly something with surface skin with the birth of the test. So certainly, have you been through cardiac or yes, that it could kind of offer the first port to cause. Although sometimes, to be honest, when something like this is starting, some people just choose to come to us straight away. I like when people do that actually, to be honest. It can save you a lot of frustration and a lot of money to come to us straight away. They didn't have to be bad to come to us. And you know, did something that was just to get the test. Thank you, so very good. Yeah, but he's good. Thank you. Cool. I've always thought. I mean, after hearing tongues. That's what you like. I thought it would be good to do it that way.
Perfect. Well, thank you. And guys, just before we look at bringing this to a head, does anybody else have any specific questions they'd like to ask the guys on hemp products or on skin health? No, we're all good. Okay, fantastic. So we want to just wrap up by basically, Catherine, how can people find you and how can they contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. So our website is skinvet.ie, and we have our website and we have our social media, our Instagram and our Facebook and everything like that. Or to say it to your vet, most vets know us, and we have a really good relationship with our referring vets as well. So we're easy to find.
Fantastic, thank you. So do not ignore those little nipples and itches that you see. It might be that your dog is telling you that they desperately need to see more of a veterinary professional in relation to their skin. David, can you tell us how we can find out more about yourselves? I know you have a stall set up next door, but what are you up to this year and what are Hemp Heroes doing at the moment?
Yeah, of course. So if anyone's interested in asking any questions, we're literally just inside. One of the main reasons people like to use our products, mainly joint support, anxiety, skin conditions to a lesser extent, and then kind of, I suppose, epilepsy is something we've seen a lot lately. And then in terms of actually buying our products, you can get them online, so hempheroes.ie. We're also stocked in 60 pet stores across the country, so most of the major pet stores actually have our products, and it's a good handful of vets. And then we have free delivery for most of our products online as well, and we ship all across Ireland, across Europe, so no issue in getting products to you. And then also, we are doing a big campaign at the moment, so we work with 9 major rescues across the country and do get our products for free in our Give Back program. We're actually raising funds and awareness. So a lot of the rescues at the moment are struggling with obviously rising costs and just capacity. Like they're literally out the door, people trying to surrender dogs. So we've set up a campaign. We're actually donating 50% of our profits from our pet sales online for the next 4 weeks. And we've also gathered up €3,000 worth of prizes which have been donated. So we've like Hargan Norman vouchers, we have food vouchers, pet store vouchers, and beauty sets, jewelry, you name it. And essentially anyone who donates €5 will be in with a chance of winning one of the hampers, which will be worth over €16 each. So if you can, just go onto our Instagram, Hemp Heroes, and you'll see the link there. As little as a $5, you get in with a chance to win one of these hampers. And for every $5 you donate, you basically get one entry. So if you want to donate 50, you have 10 chances. So it all goes towards a great cause as well.
That's absolutely fantastic, and it's so important to support Irish startup businesses, especially those that are giving back in such a huge, important way. So I want to thank you both hugely for being part of what we're doing here today. And we're going to continue with the talks now. I'm going to go and warm up. I don't know if anybody else can see me positively vibrating with the cold. I've been stuck in here for the past few hours. But up next, we have Dr. Niamh Lynch and Esther from Top Box, who is the reason why all of this is happening here today. She's been a phenomenal support. And these guys are going to be talking about child and dog safety, which is super important. So if you guys need to warm up, get a refresher, grab a coffee, have a poo, your dogs have a poo, or yourselves, the coffee's strong, and then come back here in about 5-10 minutes, where we'll be beginning the next series of talks about child and dog safety. But for now, Catherine, David, round of applause for the guys. That was super interesting. Thank you.